At a truth or dare game with her friends. She laughed. Fine, my body count is 26. I lied to him when I said it was 1. Everyone gasped. I just sat there in shock. When I asked how she could lie, she rolled her eyes and said, "The past doesn't matter, grow up." I didn't argue. But weeks later, she learned exactly why her past caught up to her. So, my life pretty much ended and restarted on a Saturday night about a month ago. My girlfriend Sarah had her friends over at my place. They were a few bottles of wine in and decided to play truth or dare like they were in high school again. I wasn't playing, just kind of chilling on the floor by the fireplace, half listening. These were her new city friends, the ones she'd collected since moving in with me 2 years ago. They were all sharp angles and loud opinions, a world away from the girl I thought I knew from back home. Then her friend Megan, who is always the loudest one, dares Sarah to tell them her real body count. Sarah gets this weird look on her face, like she's about to perform, and glances over at me with a smirk. I just smiled back, having no idea what was coming. We'd had the talk, you know? The one you have when things are getting serious. She told me she'd only been with one guy before me, a serious boyfriend from college. I told her I'd been with 3. It was a moment I thought was about honesty and building trust. Then Sarah says, real loud for everyone to hear, "Fine. My body count is 26. I lied to him when I said it was 1. The whole room went quiet. You could hear a pin drop. All her friends just snapped their heads to look at me. Their faces were a mix of shock and, I swear, pity. Like I was some poor, naive sucker from the sticks who didn't know any better. And in that moment, I guess I was. I could feel my face getting hot, the blood rushing to my ears. It wasn't just the lie, which was a gut punch on its own. It was the number. 26. It just didn't compute. It felt like she was talking about a different person, a total stranger who I had somehow been living with, sleeping next to, and planning a future with for 2 years. But the worst part was her. She saw everyone staring at me, saw the drama she had created, and she was eating it up. She had this proud, defiant look on her face, like she'd just proven how cool and experienced she was, how she'd successfully pulled one over on the simple, boring guy in the corner. I didn't blow up. I didn't say a thing. I just sat there, kept my face as blank as I could, and when the silence became unbearable, I got up to get people more drinks like nothing happened. But inside, my head was spinning. The trust I had in her, the future I thought we were building, it all just crumbled to dust in about 10 seconds. The rest of the night was a fog. I was on autopilot, smiling, nodding, playing the good host while my mind was racing, replaying every conversation, every moment, looking for the signs I'd missed. Later, after her friends left in a cloud of perfume and whispered gossip, I finally said something. I was standing by the fireplace, and she was cleaning up, humming to herself like it was just another Saturday night. "How could you lie to me like that?" I asked. My voice was quiet, but it felt heavy in the room. She turned around and gave me this huge, exaggerated eye roll. It was the most dismissive, condescending thing I'd ever seen. "Oh, come on," she said, her voice dripping with annoyance, like I was a child. "Don't be so dramatic. It was a long time ago. The past doesn't matter. Grow up." Grow up. She humiliates me in front of her friends, casually admits she's been lying to me for our entire relationship, and I'm the one who needs to grow up. That was it for me. The hurt just vanished, replaced by something cold and hard. A switch flipped. I knew right then, with absolute certainty, it was over. I run a logistics company. My whole life is about facts, numbers, and predictable outcomes. It's about managing risk. A person who can lie that easily, that shamelessly, about who they are isn't just a bad partner. They're a catastrophic liability you can't afford to have in your life. "You're right," I said. My voice was completely flat, devoid of any emotion. She smiled, a smug, triumphant look on her face. She thought she'd won, that she'd successfully managed my childish emotions. "Good. I'm glad you're not going to be a baby about this." She walked off to the bedroom, probably feeling great about herself. She had no clue that I was agreeing with her, that the past matters. And I was going to prove it. I wasn't going to fight with her or yell. I was going to let her own past do all the talking. She came from the same small town as me, and she'd worked so hard to escape it, to reinvent herself as this sophisticated city woman. She was about to get a one-way ticket right back to the place she despised. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since that night. For these 3 weeks, Sarah has had no idea what was going on. She just thought I'd gotten over it. I played the part. I was quiet, but she just figured I was being mature like she told me to be. In reality, I was working. Thanks for all the comments on my first post. You guys got it. This wasn't just about being hurt. It was about the total, calculated disrespect. First thing I did was take a trip back to our hometown that next weekend. I told Sarah I was visiting my folks. I did see them, but the real reason was to do some digging. It's a small town. Everybody knows everybody's business. I met up with a couple of old buddies for a beer at the one decent bar in town, and I just started asking questions. Man, the stories I heard. It turns out Sarah has a reputation back home, and it's not a good one. She's known for being a user. A tornado, one guy called her. She'd blow into your life, mess everything up, and then disappear, leaving you to deal with the wreckage. She'd find a decent guy with something she wanted, a nice truck, his own place, a good job, and she'd latch on. She'd use them for whatever she could get, all while looking for her next target. Then she'd jump ship, leaving them high and dry. Sometimes with a bunch of bills she'd run up in their name. It was a clear, established pattern of behavior. The lie she told me wasn't a one-time thing out of shame. It was a calculated move to hide her entire history of manipulation. While I was learning all this, she was focused on her new career as an event planner. She was trying to get into the high-end charity scene in the city. She'd actually managed to land a huge client. The annual gala for the city's biggest children's hospital. This was her big shot to make a name for herself, to finally become the person she pretended to be. And guess who was funding the whole thing? Me. I'd already paid the non-refundable deposits for the 5-star hotel ballroom, the celebrity chef caterers, the band she insisted they had to have. She was using my money to build a life she was never going to share with me. I saw the invoices. She wasn't just planning an event. She was building a monument to herself. That's when my plan really came together. I wasn't just going to break up with her. I was going to dismantle the fake life she'd built on my dime, using her own past as the demolition crew. I started by making a list of all the vendors she'd hired for the gala. Then I started making another list, all the guys from her past I could find. I'm good at finding people. It's part of my logistics business. It took some time, a lot of late nights scrolling through old social media and making quiet calls, but I tracked down a bunch of the 25 guys. A lot of them were still in the area and had done pretty well for themselves. One was a well-known wedding photographer. Another owned a very successful catering business. One was even a partner at a small law firm. They had all moved on and built good lives, but not a single one had forgotten what Sarah did to them. I started calling them. I didn't say I was her current boyfriend. I said I was a business owner, doing a background check on an event planner I was thinking of hiring for a major corporate function. I just asked, I see you know Sarah from way back. Can you tell me if she's reliable, trustworthy with a budget? It was like opening a floodgate. Every single one had a story about how she'd used them, lied to them, or left them with unpaid bills. The caterer told me about how she'd borrowed a few $1,000s for a business emergency and then ghosted him. The lawyer talked about how she'd run up a credit card he'd co-signed for and then disappeared. I recorded all the calls. I told them it was for quality assurance, so it was all legal. I was building a file on her, a whole collection of character references from the past she said didn't matter. The last piece was the gala itself. The head of the charity committee was this woman, Eleanor Vance. She's old money, a shark in a Chanel suit, and the only thing she cares about is the hospital's reputation. Sarah had somehow managed to charm her in their initial meetings, but I knew that wouldn't last if Mrs. Vance found out who she really was. I got a meeting with her. I told Sarah I had a business dinner with a potential new client. I met Eleanor at her fancy private club and laid it all out. I was calm, professional, and framed it entirely as a matter of fiduciary responsibility. I told her I was the one who had paid all the deposits for the gala, and I'd just discovered some deeply concerning information about my partner's financial history that made me seriously concerned about her ability to manage the event's budget. I didn't even have to show her all my evidence. I just gave her a folder with a couple of notarized, signed statements from guys Sarah had screwed over in the past, detailing how she'd left them with debt. I also threw in some proof that Sarah had a bunch of her own credit card debt she'd been hiding from everyone. I put it to her in business terms she would understand. As the guy guaranteeing the money for this event, I said, I have to let you know about this risk. Her history shows a pattern of financial irresponsibility. And as a result, I am officially withdrawing my financial support. I can't have my name or my company's reputation attached to this anymore. Eleanor Vance read everything without saying a word. Her face was like stone. When she was done, she carefully closed the folder, placed it on the table, and looked at me. Your sense of duty is commendable, Mr. Hayes. Thank you for your discretion. I will handle this. I knew right then it was a done deal. Sarah's entire future was riding on this one event. It was her ticket to the big time, her escape from the past she hated, and I had just handed the power to blow it all up to the one person in the city who would do it without a moment's hesitation. Sarah told me to grow up and forget the past. She was about to learn that the past never forgets you. Final update. It's over. I'm sitting in my office, looking out at the city, and things are finally quiet. The problem has been dealt with. The bug has been removed from the system. The bomb I planted with Eleanor Vance went off less than 24 hours later. She didn't mess around. Sarah got a one-sentence email from the charity committee. Her contract was terminated, effective immediately, due to concerns about professional conduct and potential reputational risk to the hospital. That was it. They didn't even give her a real reason. She came home that night in a total meltdown. I've never seen anyone so hysterical. She was screaming, crying, throwing stuff. She blamed everyone she could think of, the committee, some other planner she was jealous of, anyone but herself. She kept demanding that I get on the phone and fix it, use my connections, threatened to sue them. I just sat on the couch and let her burn herself out. When she finally stopped to take a breath, her voice hoarse from screaming, I said, "There's nothing to fix, Sarah. They know." She looked at me, confused. "Know what?" "They know about your past," I said. "The one you said doesn't matter." You could have heard a pin drop. Her face went completely white. It was like she was seeing me for the first time, and she was looking at an enemy. "You told them?" "I didn't have to tell them much," I said. "I just told them you were a risk. It was a business decision. You of all people should understand that." Her panic just turned into pure rage. She actually tried to come at me, throwing a decorative pillow from the couch. I caught it easily. She was screaming things I won't repeat. The nice, sophisticated mask she wore for her city friends was gone. This was the real her, the cornered, desperate person from that small town. "Get out," I said. My voice was dead calm, and I think that scared her more than if I had yelled. "Pack a bag. Get the rest of your stuff later." She started yelling about her rights, how she lived here, and I couldn't just kick her out. I was ready for that. I had the lease agreement, which only has my name on it, and a formal trespass notice from my lawyer all laid out on the coffee table. "You have 1 hour," I said. "After that, I call the cops." While she was in the bedroom, throwing her stuff in a suitcase, her phone started blowing up. It was the vendors from the gala. Word had gotten out that the event was a mess and the money had been pulled. They were all calling, demanding she pay the cancellation fees for the contract she signed. Her new city friends? They all ghosted her. Nobody wanted to be near the disaster she had become. She left an hour later, dragging one suitcase, her face swollen from crying. The confident woman who had rolled her eyes at me was gone. She was just a mess. But it wasn't over. I had one more thing planned. I'd given a tip to a local gossip blogger I knew through a business acquaintance. A few days later, a story came out. It didn't use her name, but it was all there. The small-town girl trying to make it in the big city, the huge charity event that blew up at the last minute, the rumors of a shady past filled with angry ex-boyfriends and unpaid debts. Everyone in that circle knew it was her. Her career was done. Nobody in this city would ever hire her for an event again. The end came last night. A knock on my door. It was her. She looked awful. She'd been crashing on someone's couch, and it looked like she'd been kicked out. "I have nothing," she said. Her voice was just a whisper. I lost my career, my friends, everything. You didn't lose it, I told her. You spent it piece by piece every time you lied and used someone. This is just the bill. But what do I do? She cried. I have no money. I have nowhere to go. I had a feeling this was coming. I went and got a bus ticket and an envelope with $500 cash. The ticket was back to our hometown. I held it out to her. You said the past doesn't matter, but it's all you've got left. Go home. Maybe try being a different person this time. She just stared at that bus ticket like it was a death sentence. The idea of going back there, a total failure, having to face all the people she thought she was better than, was the worst thing that could possibly happen to her. It was the end of the fake person she tried to be. She took the ticket and the cash. No thank you. She just turned and walked away into the night. I shut the door, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. The revenge wasn't about seeing her fail. It was about justice. She built her life on lies, thinking she could just run from her past. But your past is your foundation, and hers was rotten. All I did was give it a little push, and the whole thing fell apart, just like it was always going to.